Hello and welcome to our Saturday Fantasy Grounds stream. I'm Josh and this is Map and Image Creation. In this stream, I like to go over all of the new image-related news and whatnot, as well as we do a lot of tips and tutorials and try to maximize all of our image capabilities inside of Fantasy Grounds Unity. So I'm still feeling a little bit under the weather, but I'm going to try and stick it out for the entire duration. We usually run from about 3 p.m. Eastern time till around 6. So thanks everyone for joining me today, and we will be getting right into some stuff. The first thing that we're going to be talking about is that the new release with all of the image adjustments has come out. So the early part of this next week, you'll be seeing a whole bunch of new modules for free that will be going up onto the Forge. And that's going to be all of the maps that we've created in the stream so far, as well as a whole bunch of other ones that I did. Either it's a working with art packs, getting them ready, and so on and so forth. So lots and lots of stuff coming out there. In addition to that, let's do a little preview of what's be coming out this month, which is 2 coastal art packages. Let's see, I made a map the other day with them, and here is both of the art packages. One is centered around the creation of nautical structures like ships and so forth, and then the other one is shorelines and docks and water elements. So lots and lots of cool stuff coming your guys' way. You have a whole construction element for creating all of your own ships. In addition to that, you can even do the interiors of ships and so on. So we can look at a quick preview of those art packs. We're not going to be using them today. We won't be using them until they actually get released. But let's move this out of the way and jump right over here. So here we have Coastal Map Pack and Map Pack 2, and these are the 2 that will be coming out. So we have a nice water background that you can use, a whole bunch of new brushes for creating shorelines and whatnot in this first one. Tons of decoration, so we have like all kinds of different dock elements and all kinds of cool stuff there. And we also have some new water effects for creating splashes and whatnot. And if we come up, we can go into the second one as well, and you can see that in here again we have a whole bunch of brushes for creating more structure elements, and then we have all of our nice little nautical elements too. We have like cannons and whatnot. So this will be super fun. Lots of updated elements in here that we can use to create a little bit more in line with the recent kind of movement that we've been going with our image creation assets. So without any further ado, we've actually been working on an interior spaceship here. We'll jump right into this. You can see that we've started in creating these little engine rooms here at the base of our spaceship. And for those of you that have not seen, we originally created this nice spaceship with the Spaceship art package, and now we're doing its interior. So I've linked the interior to this map instead of building it right on top. I'm using the silhouette of the original ship as my guide, and we're building out all of these areas and through here. Last week what we did is we created one side of it, and then we duplicated that, and we created these nice little elements in through here. So we're going to be building our main central area here. We're going to be adding into... Oh, thanks so much. Yes, I am feeling much better. I am still a little bit under the weather, but I am feeling much better. So thanks guys so much for that. And then we're going to be building like this central kind of area in here. We're going to be adding some additional kind of elements. And I'm going to show you guys how you can set up and integrate some moving elements into your maps. And the reason why you want to set it up and kind of think about it ahead of time is the way that the system interacts with movement. Let me just expand this a little bit. And we'll just pull this down here. And we'll pull up our assets window and just pull it right over to the side like this. And let's, yeah, that'll work pretty well. I always like to keep my assets on the right-hand side. I'm not sure if it's because I'm right-handed or if the tools are on the right side here. It just seems a little bit less cumbersome to manipulate everything and move things around. So we're going to be setting up all of our lighting systems and everything today as well, hopefully. But we'll be working in, as I said, now we're going to be creating this central kind of platform here. And one of the things that should be noted is that, especially if we're going to be using any sort of painting layers, is that the way that the system interacts with the rotation of an image based off of whether it's the line tool that's used or the stamp tool. And so the stamp tool is always going to maintain its orientation. So let me just demonstrate. Let's get into our sci-fi interior art pack. And I'm just going to grab, let's grab one of these decorations and maybe like this chair. So with this chair all loaded up, I'm going to create a new painting layer. And I'm going to stamp this right in the middle here. And you can see that I can still manipulate this after the fact, even though it's a painting layer. But if I try to rotate this, it will not rotate. Its orientation will always be the same. So let me come back here and let me demonstrate this a little bit better for you. Oh. So here, as I rotate this around, you can see that their orientation is always going to remain the same. Just their actual position is going to change as I rotate this around. Now I can move this around and I can even make these closer or further apart after the fact, but I can't change their orientation after. Now if I use the line tool, you can see we can come back into this. Now you can see that that will change its orientation. It should also be noted that you can always come in and do things like this to make a line of chairs or whatnot. Works pretty well. And you can always come back in and erase these additional elements that you don't need. So there's lots of ways that we can use these tools to interact with the system. But that's the main thing that you want to think about, especially if you're going to be doing a rotating kind of platform, which is what I'm thinking we'll do in the center here. We'll do like this central kind of walkway and then maybe a round area in here. And we'll do little elements that are coming off of the side, and maybe it'll rotate every round or something along those lines, or every third round, or who knows, whatever floats your boat. Or whatever seems to make sense. We could even do it with like timed energy fields and whatnot, kind of like reminiscent of like in the Phantom Menace in the Star Wars movie, how when they're fighting Darth Maul at the end there, and they have those like energy fields that come through. You can do things along those lines. But you also want to make sure that you set it up in a way that the folder system is going to work for you. So when you set up that folder, you want to have a specific folder for all of the elements that are going to be rotating so that you can use it all as one entity without having to worry about trying to get it all onto one layer. Great, so why don't we get started in here? I'm just going to move in, and again, we're going to start off with some floors. I'm going to create a new, well, we won't create a new folder yet. We'll kind of build this out. But we might want to create a folder and then place all of this other stuff inside of it. So that we don't get too confused or none of this really gets in our way. So why don't we just grab all of this stuff and we can just drop it right inside of here. So we're going to separate this into two sections. We're going to be doing, well, maybe probably three sections actually, one that's above and below it, and then the actual rotating element itself. So let's grab some of these elements in here. Maybe we'll just change up some of the structure here a little bit. I think what I'll actually do is, again, I'm going to use this same kind of background here. And if I go into one of these folders, for example, you can see we have this these mechanical kind of backgrounds. So I'm just going to grab these. Well, I don't know if I'm going to need that many. Let's just grab, let's do like 4 of them, and I'm going to duplicate them. And that's going to put them right up on the outside here, which is exactly where I want them. And then I'm going to pull these over. And we'll rotate this. And I think what I'll do is I'll just going to grab these and we'll change the height here a little bit. Or actually, that'll work out pretty well. We'll keep it just like this. And I think what we'll do is we'll come back in here later, and where we have our wall system, we want these to be kind of like separated. We might kind of block this out. One of the great things that we can do by using this silhouette kind of background here as our base image is that we can paint in black areas that we want to remove, so that these bits that kind of stick out, we don't have to worry about them too much. So we might actually add in some additional kind of wall content in that. But for right now, let's focus on this main kind of central area here. So let's do, we'll create a new folder, and we're going to call this center below. And we can put these right on the inside here. And I'll grab some of these floor elements. We can even kind of just drop these in here as tiles if we want to. Especially if we're going to be kind of separating these in here. We want to make sure we're up here. We can just click right in the middle here, and it's going to snap right to our grid system. I might even want to turn these so that, whoops. Something like this. Yeah, that kind of looks like a nice little walkway. I like using these elements that really stand out from the background to help really distinguish between the back and the foreground. And I'm just going to grab all of these, and we can just move them all the way up to something like this. And then we'll build a nice little circular kind of element in through here. What we'll do is we'll probably put it like in the center area here, and then add in a couple of wings on the other side here. Once we have all three of these elements kind of set up, you'll kind of see how this is going to work all together here. So maybe what we'll do is we'll use something like this. Let's increase the size of it. Let's double that size. And let's duplicate that. And I'm going to flip it so that we get this kind of element like this. And what we'll do is we'll have this circulating platform, and maybe we'll have like this element that's kind of missing on one side. And that's the possible hazard that we might need to encounter. And let's move this down a little bit. Let's make this maybe even, I'll add a couple of elements on the sides here that kind of come out. And we'll add in an element on either side here as well that kind of comes out, so that we have these little like walkways. And perhaps what we'll do is just one walkway on here. And as you can see, as this rotates around, it's going to interact differently as it moves around here. Maybe we'll put it down like this. We'll see what makes sense here. Yeah, something like this. And we can move back and grab in these particular elements again, something like this. And let's make that 2 by 2. And I actually am going to elongate it a little bit here. And this will be our little rotating platform. So what we'll do is we'll create a new folder. And then we'll call this center rotate. And we'll drop these right on here. So now anytime that I want to put something in here that's going to be moving along with these, I'm just going to do it just like this. And we can create this kind of a rotating scenario here. I think what I'll do is I'll actually grab these, and let's shorten this up a little bit. I want to make sure that when this rotates around, that we don't get too much interaction like this. So we might want to make this a little bit smaller as well. We don't want to change that. We want to change this one. And then we can elongate this a little bit. And we can also change this. So if we want to make sure that it rotates down in this area, yeah, that's more what I was thinking, something along these lines. So maybe we'll make this bigger, and we're just going to make sure that we maintain that central point. Yeah, change the center point, that's right. So we can put this right in the center of our platform here and rotate it as just like this. And you can see that this is going to stop on each one of these little areas here. And then we can add in our little additional element on these sides as well. So if we drag out something like this, we can make it 2 by 2. And plug it right in here. And we can duplicate that. And we'll flip it this way. Now this will always reset. So when you're doing your actual rotation, you want to make sure that you put that back to where you want it to rotate from. But here we have the basic kind of element that we want to have here. So perhaps every round it'll rotate 1/4 of a turn. And we can do it with our clockwise rotation as well. So once we've set this, we can do it. Oh, we cannot. This is going to cause each one to rotate in a little bit weird way. So we want to make sure that we actually grab that element and do it this way. So now we have all of our base kind of elements in our functional space here. We can start to put in all of our different hazards and whatnot that we might want to have here. So besides the fact that we're going to be rotating this around in a particular fashion, so I'm going to extend this down so it's going to make sense as well. So let's go into our center below here, and I'm just going to grab these, and let's make these. We want to extend it down 2 more, so we're going to make it 12. And we'll encase all of this in our road or our walls. And then we can start to build up all of these other elements at the bottom here. I'm just going to put this back to its original kind of orientation here. And I think what we'll do is we'll put maybe like a console on here as well. Maybe we'll build some sort of device in the center here. And then we can kind of build up, maybe we'll put some railings on it, but maybe not. Maybe we'll leave it quite out in the open here. So let's go into our decorations, and we have all of these machine parts. So I'm just going to type in machine. We have some nice rounded kind of elements that might work out really well for this. So again, anything that we want to have rotate or to be functionality or to rotate with the rest of the functionality of our little center space in through here, we want to make sure that we drop that right in there. Yeah, maybe something along these lines. And I think what we'll do is we can go all the way up into the spaceship art package. And I'll actually I'm going to make like a central kind of platform underneath. So we go into some of these hull parts. We have some nice rounded kind of ones here. And I think we'll darken this up. Make it feel recessed down in the background here. Let's make it somewhere around like 100 across the board. Maintain that color neutrality. Neutrality. Looks like I had two of them open there. And I'm going to actually shrink this down a little bit more. Make it something like 6 by 6. Yeah, something like that. And then again, I'm going to do the same thing with this ring. Let's just make it maybe something like 150. And we can start to add in some color information as well. And where this is all in this same kind of centralized platform, we can get right in here too if we want to and figure out exactly the point at which we want it to rotate. It's probably something like this. And then as you can see, this is all going to rotate perfectly. Now I'm going to get into my center below area down here. And we're going to actually put these, let's add these in. Well, we can keep them in this particular area. I guess we'll keep them here. But these are going to be stationary as well, so we want to make sure that we keep them separated from the other elements. And then I'm going to go in and we can go into all of these like mechanical kind of parts and whatnot. And much like we did on these over here, we can start to build up what looks to be like machinery and whatnot down below. And we can even add in some glows and whatnot of particular types of elements and what. And maybe what we'll do is expand these out a little bit. Duplicate that. Flip it. And all of these are going to go down below. So drop them down. Something like this. And again, these will be independent. They won't be rotating with the rest. But we could rotate them if we wanted to. And this is maybe what we'll do is shorten this up a little bit. So like this. We could even put this in underneath. Maybe underneath the platform. Yeah, something like that. We could even do some more of this like grading kind of stuff underneath here to get a little bit more continuity between all of the different elements. And let's begin to build out some. Oh, you mean these, the dark mantle? We should put these on either side. And I'm going to grab some of these other things, and I'm just going to start to drag and drop out some additional kind of stuff in through here. Let's build. We want to make this kind of like hazardous down here. Maybe what we'll do is we'll have this like also some sort of energy coming off of this like ball down here. We could even add in some of these same kind of electricity elements, or maybe we could even do it a little bit different. I think what we'll do is we'll put some stuff maybe like this. And we also want to make sure that one of the cool things about this is we have this background and whatnot, but as this rotates, we'll be able to expose some different elements, maybe that isn't visible unless this is in the right orientation. And maybe we'll make this a little bit longer here. Funny how that does that. Put this like here and here. And let's drop these. And again, we'll make these ones darker. Do like 150. Oh yeah, we can do one more at the top for sure. Let's do it. Whoop. And then we'll drop it down in, where's the other ones down there? But we should put these ones just above these. So now when we rotate this, let's zoom in and put this about where it should go. You need to move it up a little bit. So it'd be something like this. Oh, howdy, DJ Break Time. Welcome. Yeah, so, and then I think what we'll do is we can, I think I'll actually add in some cool kind of elements like this. Maybe we'll have like some sort of energy or whatnot that's down here. Let's go into our spell templates and see what we can kind of create here. I'm thinking that the lightning storm cloud might work really cool in there. Call lightning. We have all of these kinds of elements in through here, and of course we'll make this quite a bit smaller here. Maybe a little bit bigger than that. We'll put it in underneath our, and we can also make it a little bit more akin to the same kind of colors that we have going on over on these sides. Maybe we'll even actually do it above the sphere, and then we'll lower its opacity. Or we can actually do, let's duplicate it and put it down. I'll show you what I'm kind of thinking here. Could do one underneath, and then the one above it, we could lower its opacity and shrink it down as well. We get this kind of Death Star-esque kind of reactor thing that's underneath. Let's put it under the ring, and then we can. And then we can maybe shrink this down just a little bit. And if you hold down Shift, it'll do it uniformly across it. So you can really kind of manipulate it exactly the way you want to. Yeah, that's pretty cool. And now we have it all centered up so that we can rotate all of this. And if we wanted to, we could actually remove those from the rotation. So maybe we want this to stay kind of static. So maybe what we'll do is we'll take this out and we'll just drop it in right underneath here. Yeah, that's pretty cool. That way we get a variety of things that... And now what we can do is we can add in a new effects layer. Or we can actually probably just use the same effects layer that we were using across the other ones. Wherever that one might happen to be, there it is. And what I would do is we'll just take this out and we'll put it in between the rotation and the other elements here. And we can go into our effects layer. We can reveal area. We might want to do it obviously underneath that this ring. So we'll just drop it right in here. And let's drop down our distortion here a bit. Maybe we'll add a little bit more the wiggles. We get this kind of cascading energy kind of feel. Yes, if you try to You can't erase just a portion of it with a stamp tool. It'll erase the entire image. So I mean, there is a workaround. You can use, if you want to just have part of an image like this, for example. Here, let me just create a new little, I'll just paint out a small little section of it. So as long as I'm using the line tool, I can. And then I can come back in and erase a small portion of the image. So there is a little bit of a workaround. The stamp tool, however, will always just erase the entire image. So let's say, for example, you wanted to do in a small portion of something. Let's say I'm going to do this. And I just want a small portion of this. I'm going to rotate this to whatever angle that I want it to be at when I paint it out. And then I'm just going to paint out a small section of it. And I can do that. Only with the line or the a rectangle or ellipse tool. That's correct. Yeah, you bet. You can actually use the line tool to do a lot of like cool, inventive little things as well. And I think what we'll do is let's grab this guy. I'm going to rotate this. Delete that painting layer. And I'm going to drop this down in and let's shorten it up. We'll do a little we can drop these right in underneath here. And then we can go into our effects layer here and just we'll do a little additional kind of stuff in here. And then you can actually come in and do as much as you want to in this kind of like background area in here. Let's add a new painting layer. We'll go back into our sci-fi interiors here. Let's go into our walls, and I'm going to grab, I think that's probably grab this same, I think that isn't a wall. I think that was a trim. Let's go into our brushes. Yeah, it's this one. So this is, we're just prepping for the rest of our kind of wall creation here. And I'm going to build a wall right on top of this. Oh, if we grab the center platform now, we can go into our layers tab. And it should also be noted that you'll have to have this unlocked in order for this to function properly. And you want to make sure that you go into your layers tab, and then all we have to do is line this up, and each round we can now rotate this. So maybe what we have here is a central kind of reactor, and then we have like these power couplings at the bottom, and this kind of runs out into our main engines here. So what we can do is we can actually, what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to help redefine all of these different elements so that we can start to add in all of our shadows and lighting and whatnot. And what we'll do is where we have like this basic kind of like trim in our painting layer, I'm going to now build out some actual like more rigid kind of walls. And with our walls, I want to really define the areas that are accessible. And we can do this in a couple of different ways, and I'll probably build it up with a couple of these kind of walls. Yeah, it can be super dynamic. And one of the things that I like to do, I'm not exactly sure how you guys run your games, but I get caught. I have to constantly kind of have reminders and whatnot. So what I'll actually do is in the combat tracker, we have a couple of different people here. But I will make an actual NPC. So here I'm in Core RPG, so this is going to be pretty simple. But I would just call this a rotating platform. And drop that right in here. And what I'll do is I will set this so we'll have a rotating platform. I'm not sure why it's Z. There it is. So what I'll do is I'll set this to like initiative order 10 or whatever you actually happen to have going at the time. And so when, let's say this one's at 20 and this one's at 5, and I'll make this static, I won't change it. So every time I'll know this will come up, and once this hits, I'll be like, oh yes, I have to rotate the platform. And if I have any other sort of like hazards or whatnot, I'll have all of those notes put right in there. The token will not move, but you can kind of keep track of it. As let's say, for example, if this rotates so many number of whatever. So what I'll do is, let's say let's actually put some of these people on here. So here we have Bob, who is looks like a duck, and we have our little goblin. And so when we actually come into our platform here, we have it all set up to rotate. You can see that they will maintain their position. So let's say it rotates like this, and then I'll just have it set up. It'll be like they move whatever to the left. And you can see that when we rotate this back, whatever position that they're in, I'll try to just maintain that. So I would then move these appropriately to their closest kind of orientation. And then on that initiative, I'll have them make whatever sort of athletics rolls or whatever is necessary. All right, so now we have all of our basis kind of mechanics done. What I'll do, like I said, now is I'm just going to set up my strict, rigid kind of wall orientation, and I'll do that all on one layer, and then I can make my line of sight completely dictated by that. So I'm just going to pick something that's going to have a good contrast. Let's make sure we get into our painting layer here. Maybe we'll do something like this. That's not quite industrial enough, I don't think. Maybe something like that. Maybe it doesn't have enough contrast. Might use one of these trim brushes. Yeah, let's use something like this. So I think what I'll do is I'm just going to line this right up. Let's find a spot where I can hold down Control. I don't really like how those are rounded, so I'm just going to go back and we'll do it a little bit differently. Looks like this got a little bit wonky over here. Maybe what I'll do is I'll just kind of butt it up against that. Well, let's see here. What's the best way to approach this? I think what we should do is make it a little bit more narrow. Let's do this right over again. And I'm just hitting Control Z. So maybe if we make this only one wide, and then we can kind of build on the top of it here. Yeah, something more along the lines like that. I kind of like how this is separated. It's a little like a little space here. And what I'm doing is I'm just double clicking at those intersections to keep it a little bit more square. And then we can put a door in over here. And with this all created just like this, what we can do is we can just duplicate all of that as our line of sight. And I think what I'll do is I will add in, yeah, maybe what we'll do is we'll keep this open. We'll just have this as being like an extra, like secondary kind of floor element. And then in through here, we can actually just, well, we'll add in a little door. Yeah, and this way we can actually add in some cool kind of lighting elements as well. So let's start with all of our shadows here. And now that we've already used this painting layer to create our line of sight, all I have to do now is I can go back into this painting layer and I can grab my little shadow brush and make sure that I switch to the correct area over here. And what I'll actually do is, well, you know what? I'm going to make a new layer so that I can adjust that independently as well. So one of the things that I've been doing lately is just painting in my shadows rather roughly. I'm going to make this a bit oblong to make this a little bit easier on myself. And I'm just going to start stamping in these really rough kind of shadows. And then I'll be using an adjust layer, adjust colors layer to create little highlights from this as well. And I'm not going to worry about my opacity right now. I'm going to adjust that in a moment, as well as do a little bit more color variation. Just angle this a little bit like this. We should do the same over here. And then I can come into this and I can begin to drop down my opacity, and I'm also going to make it a bit darker. And now what I can do is I can just use this exact element here. As you can see, I can start to paint these in without having to worry too much about adjusting this after the fact. And I can create other elements as well. I think what I'll actually do is come in here and let's reset that. Make it a bit darker. Let's make that 120. Let's make that 30. Make sure we switch back to our stamp tool. Now anything that we want to have to rotate, like any shadows that we create, we're going to have to make sure that we put it with our center rotation. And it's not going to work in the same way, so we have to be a little bit more careful about that. So I'll probably keep this free of shadows. At least these kind of stamp painted in shadows. Yeah, that's pretty good. Now let's create our new effects layer. And I'm going to do an adjust colors here. And we want to drop down, we'll increase the blue and green here because we're going to create this kind of ambient light, and we can increase our brightness as well. And then we're going to add our mask. And we're going to start to paint in these little areas, and through here we'll blur that out a bit. As you can see, that's going to really start to pull that up. That's a little bit too much. Let's back that off a little. We might even want to bring down our colors here a little bit. Maybe we'll make it like 55. Yeah, something like that. That's going to really help sell that interaction there. We can do some here. And we can do some down here. And if we want to, we can drop this down in underneath our rotating platform. And that way we can put some here, and we can do a little bit like around here. And we can actually do some like out in these areas too if we wanted to. And I'll just do some little spots here and there. And we could even do some little glows coming off of our consoles and whatnot. And now we can start to set up our lighting. We have our line of sight all done and a lot of these other elements all finished. So we'll do the same kind of thing here. We'll make these lights like this at first. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to drop one in here. And then I'm going to come in and readjust it. And once I get it to an area that I kind of feel like works really well, and I could even set these up as like shadow casters and whatnot, but I don't think we have to go that far. I'm going to make this a bit smaller. And I'm going to increase that fall off a little bit. And we could even give it a little bit of a flicker if we wanted to. So we got 2, 5, 50, 50. So we'll duplicate that on the other side. And we'll drop that right in there as well. And now when we switch over and see it from our player's perspective, you can see that this is starting to take on a whole new kind of definition. And maybe what we'll do is set up some normal kind of lights as well. Maybe we'll have like little floor lights along here. So let's do some smaller ones. Oops. Make sure we do it in the right spot here. Let's actually do something like that. I think that that one needs to be a little bit more subtle. Something like this. And then I can use these kind of lights to light up some of these other areas over here. Maybe we'll do one on each of these corners. And then I'll make one that's kind of yellow. And we'll do that on the console. We might make those a little bit smaller. Just so we get this like little glow from the screens or whatnot. Yeah, this is really starting to... Now look at all this stuff that's down in the background now, because we've made it darker. It really begins to feel like it's receded back there. Let's lower down our opacity of our Create a little bit more. Yeah, that's really starting to feel like an industrial kind of area, I think. And we can still grab our center platform here. And let's see how it rotates. Perfect. What do you guys think? What else should we add to this? Anything? Looks like I need to switch that up a little bit. Inadvertently changed it. 2 and 5. And once I had the entire interior done, I would actually delete this entire folder because it's certainly not necessarily. You could keep it, obviously. We still have a lot of the ship left to build, but we have quite a lot of it gone so far here. So what we can do is we can open this up. I'm assuming what we'll do is we can do this as the main kind of cargo area. Yeah, we'll do the cargo holds. Sure, certainly. So let's grab our little buddy Bob, throw him in here. Let's see, does Bob have any? Bob has a candle. Let's get rid of his candle. I would say that that is plenty of lighting. With lots of ambience and neat little interactions here. Yeah, for sure. You always want to test. I always do it as well. It's always a good practice to make sure that you test out your environments from the character's perspective. Oh yeah, sure. You can do all kinds of stuff like that. Um, so what you mean is you want to make these kind of feel like they're going to be like one of the reactors going to be melting down or something. Yeah, so let's. Why don't we do that? We can jump in here and we'll grab this one and we'll make it into like it's a meltdown kind of reactor that's going to go on here. I'm assuming that what we'll do here, we'll have this as like the main power source in the center. And then this is like our where the energy gets fed into our engines and whatnot. Yeah. Yeah, we can do it lots of different ways. And why don't we do like some sort of radioactive gas and whatnot as well? We can do a whole bunch of different stuff. Well, you know, Dark Mantle, that could be something that's coming out in the future, so we'll just have to wait and see. So let's start to build this up a little bit. And what I'm going to do is, again, I'm going to think about this in advanced stages, right? What am I going to do to make this feel as though that there is something going on? Well, I can add in, I can alternate, I can change the light source. I can add in a different type of ambience. I can add in different images, which I can bring in slowly over time. And so I'll probably use all three of those to kind of intensify this, right? So what I would do is, yeah, it is. So basically what we do is with the idea informer, all of those requested, it gives us the, it allows us to know what is more or less important to the player base. So that's what we use to help determine the order in which things kind of come out. We're a small team, so it takes us quite a lot of resources to invest in particular type of aspects. And as those things the more something gets upvoted, the more time and resources that we can allocate to them. So the more that something's important to you, the more that it gets upvoted, then the more likely that's going to become sooner than later. It doesn't mean that we're not going to get to a lot of the stuff. It's just what's the most important to the player base. So it's a great tool. But I'm going to do this exactly the same way. I'm going to actually set this up in, let's say I have 3 different rounds that it's going to progressively get worse, and maybe certain elements depending on, maybe there's like some sort of cooling system, like an emergency cooling system that needs to be initiated and whatnot. And we can kind of go through those steps that I would do. So the first thing that I would do is I want to give some sort of like signals, right? Like you were saying before, we want to maybe intensify this. So I could have additional kind of arcing elements. I could, and I can do this a couple of different ways, right? So we have this folder, and it is the copy that's here. And here we have the effects, which are these lightning bolts. So I could specifically come in here and I could probably just widen these or make them smaller or interact with them that way. But that's kind of cumbersome. I have to constantly kind of search through here, but I am going to duplicate those. So I'm going to grab these and I'm going to duplicate these, and that's going to make a new grouping of them up here. And let me just flip them. And I'm just going to enlarge them. And I think I'll go in one by one and kind of, I'm going to hold down Control so that I can, and we might even want to take some of these, and I could do some smaller ones and have them kind of cascading out, right? Like, so if I duplicated one, and I could make any number of these as well. And these ones I'll probably drop down in underneath so they kind of like look like they're arcing out. And let's duplicate those and flip them this way. And then I'll make a new, oh, I don't need to make 2 folders. But in here I can come in and I can do something along the lines of, like, I'll call this meltdown. Hopefully I'm not the one having the meltdown, but. And I can hold down Control and I'll make this all crazy. This one's a little bit too, I'm going to angle this in. And let's drop that down in there like this. Yes, they will. So the question is, if the player has a torch or a spell light, won't their light overlap the one in the room? And that's correct. It will. It's additive. So, which is one of the reasons why I usually use the lighting to be more ambient, less of like a direct kind of lighting situation. But yeah, you're absolutely correct. And I think what I'll actually do is create another effects layer as well. And maybe we'll do this one at time of day. Although we could use time of day. That is pretty cool to make it seem a little bit more dangerous. But we can also do it with an adjust colors layer. And again, we'll increase the, and maybe make it a bit brighter. And then I can put this into this particular layer here. And then I can have this easily able to be turned on and off. But I can also come in here and I can adjust the opacity of it. Not the effects layer, but these elements I can. And this will update in real time to my players, so I can begin to fade this in. So I might want to do this not with this, so I can do it all controlled at in the same way here. So what I might do is create some additional kind of elements in here. So we might put this even in particular stages. Sure, we can make it more yellow as well. And we can actually do it right here. And what I would actually do is go into my assets, and let's do smoke. I think if we go into our abyssal art package, there's some nice smoke elements. And I'm just going to type in smoke, and here we have some. And now when I come into this, you can see I can adjust this, and I can just fade this in and making that seem a lot more dynamic. And that looks like a reactor that is beginning to melt down. What I could actually do is set that up in a couple of different stages. Like I said, I might do 1, 2, or 3 different variations to show how critical that might be going down. But yeah, it's super fun stuff. All right, well, I'm going to take a quick break. I have to stretch my legs for a moment and refresh my beverages. We're about halfway through the show. So if you guys just want to hang out for a couple of moments while I get myself, as I said, new beverages and readjust it a little bit, and then we'll get going. We'll continue on this journey. So hang out for just a moment, and I will be right back. All right, and we're back. Thanks for hanging out and waiting for me. Let's get back into our little creation area here. So I think what we'll do now is let's turn off the lighting so that, or at least the player visible, so we can kind of see what we're doing here. We'll build this out into some cargo areas. Again, we can do it a couple of different ways. I think what we'll do is we'll do like one centralized one here. And then we can do a couple of other ones, and then we can do what other areas that we might want to build up through here. We might want to do like some living quarters, and then obviously we'll have the. We might do that up and through here. Maybe we'll keep this as like the central kind of ship utility areas. Now we can have some control rooms. We'll have to do like a few different elements here. So I'm thinking what we'll do is we're going to have this as our central kind of entry area into back here into the energy source and engine rooms. And we have some kind of additional engines on here as well, but we don't have to get too crazy with our creation process here. We can leave a little bit to the imagination. I would assume that some of the parts of the ship would only be accessible through hatchways and crawl spaces and whatnot. So we'll just do some of the major areas here. Let's do like a large kind of cargo area. So I think what we'll do is we can do it in a couple of different layers. Let's make a new folder, call this cargo areas. So I'm thinking that we'll use some more of these like grates in particular areas for like second floor or elevated places. And then we'll have like a major kind of. What kind of cargo do you think that this would transport? I guess that'll help determine how we set up some of this stuff. Almost is kind of feeling like one of those ships that might be in like an alien type movie. Yeah, Jeffries too. That's right. So I think we'll do something like along these lines for like a very industrial kind of floor. Some of those are a little bit too, or we could do something like this. Yeah, I think we'll go something like that. Yeah, high security eggs from a very dangerous creature. So I'm actually going to tile these out. And I think I'll make these a little bit bigger just for simplicity's sake here. And obviously we'll drop this down in behind our walls here in a second. And so I made these 8 by 8, so I just have to go 4 squares over. Make sure I'm in the right area here. And then we can do one more over here. And then what I'll do is I'll just duplicate these. And let's duplicate that one more time. And that'll be our first little area out here in this cargo area. So I'm going to grab all of these and drop these right into the rest of our little bit here. And then I'm going to drop this down in underneath our central rotating or painting area here. I want to make sure that my wall is on top of that layer. And I think what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to darken these up. I'm not going to do it for the entire layer or the entire folder. I'm just going to do it from here. And then with all of them selected, I think I'll just drop this down to something like 200 across the board. Maybe a little bit more. Oh, whoops, I got to do it. Maybe we should do it from here. Yeah, like that. Yeah, they're out hauling cattle. That's right. I love Firefly. I thought that was such a great show. Yeah, we could do like makeshift animal pens set up or something. It looks like that this is 63 wide. Must have some that are, looks like this line here. There we go. Now it's correct, I think. Now again, now that we have it behind our painting here, here's our walls. We can kind of come in and we can use this again. And I'll do my walls once again here. But first we'll start to set up the rest of the kind of areas in here. So this is just like this big open kind of concept. And if I wanted to, I could like put these grates right over the top to increase the kind of feeling, or maybe even something like this. And I would probably increase the size of this. And I'll leave a space around the edges. Maybe we'll do something like that. And this is how easily we can duplicate these larger areas without having to worry too much about it. But we want to make sure that this all kind of lines up properly. So as long as I make this so that it's one square less, And if you hold down Control, you can use your arrow keys to manipulate this pixel by pixel. Yeah, I agree, Dark Soul. That would be great, wouldn't it? I kind of like the way that this interacts, though. We have two different size elements. I'm going to create a folder. I'm going to put all of these grates in the folder. I'm not sure if I'm going to keep them yet, or maybe we'll make that our second floor. I'm not sure. So we'll just keep it like that for right now. And I'm going to drop this down into the cargo area. I think for simplicity's sake, what I'll do in this large cargo area is we'll make in our decorations, we have a whole bunch of different crates. And what I'll do is I'm going to actually paint a couple of different crate groupings here. And this is where the I think the stamp tool really comes in handy. Now we can kind of look at this with and without the crate system. Maybe what we'll do is lower down the opacity of the crates. So it's just not so, well, maybe not. We'll see. We'll see how it pans out here once we add our shadows and whatnot. So by painting in a section like this, what I can actually do is I'm not going to use this one, I don't think. Whoops. Yeah, we can add in some additional kind of elements as well, I think. But what I can do is I can now duplicate this layer. And because of the way that it rotates, you can see that I can make a multitude of different kind of elements here, all from the same grouping. So if I do this again, and I can even squash them all together. Now, one of the things that let's delete these for right now, because I'm also going to add in my shadow content. And what the shadow is going to do, I'm going to do it all in the same layer. I'll show you how this is going to work here. This time I'm going to make sure that my shadow is set up appropriately. I'm going to make it a bit darker here. And let's drop down the opacity to something like 75. And I'm going to stamp in a couple of shadows, and the shadow is going to maintain its orientation as well. So even though the images will rotate, the orientation is all going to stay the same. So I'm going to get the same shadow direction. So as I duplicate this, and I rotate this, you can see the shadows are all going to maintain their orientation here. I can even squash it together. And so I can quickly begin to populate all of these things. And this is where I'm going to check and see if I want this grate or not. I think I do. I think I am going to keep it. And we can make a new folder. Call it cargo. And then we can drop our cargo down into our cargo area. We might actually, I might get rid of these ones. Make a little walkway in the center here. Yep, you can do that as well, Dark Mantle. And then maybe what we can do is create some industrial kind of elements along the wall or whatnot. And I think we might make this walkway down the middle again. And we can Command and do. Oh, that's our. That's why it was like that. It's our shadows. And I think I'll maintain this little bit of And now what we can do is we can actually set up some cool lights. Let's do some larger ones in these areas. Maybe what we'll do is we'll do four lights in each of these sections. And then I'll select these and adjust them all together. And we can go in and we can set up our boxes with some cool line of sight stuff. So I think I'll actually use as terrain pieces for this. And we can build all of these out here. I think I have to redo these two. Yeah. Because these have to be all encompassing of this. That's more like it. Oh yeah, there's lots of tweaks that you can do, Frank. So the question is there any way to have Unity use less CPU and GPU? Certainly. It depends on your specs, and there's a lot of things on the forums that you can try. One thing that you can do is change the VSync. And I'm just going to switch back over here and turn this on so we can kind of see these shadows that are now being cast by these. Yeah, I really like these little spotlights through here. This is really going to add a lot of ambience. So maybe what it is, it's more of an alien type encounter where the players have to cause the ship to explode. And then we can do this side. And then I'll show you guys how this line of sight is going to work. So the way that these occluders are working, the ones that I'm using right now, I'll just do a short little demonstration here. I'm actually using the, yeah, you can use the image quality, and there's also VSync, which will change the refresh rate. So if you do slash VSync, and you can do the same 0 through 3. So the way that I do this is I create, well, I'll adjust that in a second. So what I do is I create a, especially with the terrain, because the terrain allows you to see through an object, but not on the other side of it. So what we're actually doing here, depending on the height of each of these boxes are, let's say that this one is taller than these other ones, and so it's like this stack of boxes here. So any box that you can see, like this one, for example, if you can see this one, you're going to see through it, and this one as well, but not on the other side of it. So the way that you set up your occluders can change drastically how these interact. And you can have multiple layers of this going on. So let's grab our buddy Bob over here. And as Bob begins to look around here, see, we're going to have to change a little bit of the way that interacts. But what you're going to see here is you'll be able to see all of these objects as we encounter, but the larger the ones on top will cast shadows on the way that those things are going to be below it. Yeah, absolutely, Frank. So what you can do is you can do slash, and then there's image quality. And you can do 0 through 3 here. So if I set it to 3, for example, you can see that that's going to change the way that that definitive line on all of these line of sights. 0 is being the default, and then 3 is being different here. So if I do image quality 0, you can see that that's going to change that again. And I can also do v sync, and again 0 is going to refresh this at whatever my default system speed is. And then I can do vsync 3. And you'll notice that when I move my window around, it's going to be a little bit more choppy because it's going to change that refresh rate. All of those should have quite a bit of impact on your system. Yeah, it'll be individual, so a player can change that on their own system. It's independent of the host. So what we've actually done here is created a pretty complex little network of how these boxes are going to interact with each other. And as I move up on top of these boxes, you can see that it no longer is going to interfere with my sight. But when I'm on this side of the box, I won't be able to see what's on the other side here. Oh yeah, sure. Yeah, that is the unfortunate side effect of adding new features and improving on existing ones, is that it will always require a little bit better PCs as we move forward. And we can do this box. And then so for the system to interact, as you can see that this is going to show nothing that's behind it but the box itself. So I'm going to do the same. I'm going to create one here, but I'm going to include this one in this one's site. So this is going to allow me to see this box and the one that's above it, but not what's behind it. And then I want to do the same with this one. And then these we can just do on their own. I like to use a lot of terrain line of sights. These are a little bit wonky. Let's fix those. So this next week, we'll be doing, this next coming weekend, we're going to be doing Gen Con. So instead of our regular, let me just turn off my player view here for a moment. Our regular scheduled kind of content, we'll be doing some seminars, much along the same lines of what we normally do, but more geared towards people who have not used the systems before. But there should be a lot of people in chat. I think last year when we did it, it ends up being a few hundred. So you can actually use all the different occluders in the line of sight tab to create some pretty complex effects. So make sure you experiment. Try out different things. And I think I'll just continue this up. And if you hold down Shift, it will only go in either 90 or 45-degree angles. And here, let's reset his vision here. And we can come down and open up our door, go into our reactor room. We have all kinds of cool stuff going on. Some large cargo areas. So you can see how quickly you can build up some pretty complex areas here. Like even though that there isn't a lot going on inside this particular area here, you can quickly build up all of this stuff image-wise. So the question is, what is the command you're using to make the lines? I was just using the in the line of sight tab. You just select the wall and the line tool. And so if I were to be making a line right across here, if I want it to go in straight, I can just hold down Shift, and it will only go in 90 or 45-degree angles. And if you double click, it'll select the entire line, and then I can just hit delete to get rid of it. So I'm going to go ahead and probably continue to work on this next week, and I'll get this entire ship finished and put this up on the forge for you guys for free. Yeah, you're welcome. It can really save you a lot of time especially if you're doing a lot of line of sight in especially like structures like this. But if there's any further questions, I'm happy to take them now. I think I'll call it a little bit early today. We went almost the entire time, but next week, as I said, we're going to be doing Gen Con, so there's going to be lots of different streams going on. I'm going to be doing 2 different 3-hour seminars, and you guys are more than welcome to sign up for that as well. It is free, and you can do it through the Gen Con website, but you can just, we'll be putting it up as normal on YouTube and Twitch, Facebook. So you guys are more than welcome just to join in. We'll be going through all the different tools. Maybe there's some functionality that you're not aware of, but I'm going to go through all the different tools and building maps. And we're also doing line of sight, setting up lighting, doing some like mood stuff, and lots of fun things. It should be super exciting. So as I said, you guys are more than welcome to sign up through Gen Con, but you can also just watch in your normal everyday way, just joining in to Twitch or YouTube or wherever you like to watch us. There's a whole bunch of other events going on as well. Doug and Dave both are going to be doing some. So there's going to be like campaign setting up and character creation, lots and lots of stuff. So it should be a great time. But if you guys have any other questions, I'm happy to answer anything now. Otherwise, I think I'm going to call it here. We've got quite a lot finished today. And I think this is really starting to really take on a really kind of cool feeling here. Well, as I said, I'm going to finish this week. And at the early part of this next week, there's going to be a whole bunch of different free modules going up of all the maps that we've created here on the stream and ones that I've created off stream as well. I think there's 30 or so maps. I've divided it up into 10, no, not that many, six or eight different modules. And as long as you have access to the art packs, either have purchased them or have the art subscription, you'll be able to download all these maps and use them for free. So and what we'll probably be working on this next week is we'll dive into using the new art packs that are coming out this month, the Coastal and Coastal Map Pack 2. So we'll be doing like some cool seaside villages or ships or something along those lines. You guys will have to help give me some good ideas that we can create with that. I'm really excited about some of the new brushes. These new brushes are super fun to use to create your custom little coastlines and whatnot. All right, guys. Well, if there's no other questions, then we will see you next week. As I said, this next week we will be doing the Gen Con stuff. So hopefully I'll see you guys all there. And have a great weekend and a great week, everybody. Thanks for hanging out with me today, and we'll see you next time.